What's up, everybody? I'm Duncan, and welcome to the WBE Week 4. This was my battle against Wolfe Glick, the previous WBE champion and a good friend of mine. This battle was recorded on Monday, the day after my bachelor party, because Wolfe messaged me and told me basically that he was leaving the next day for England to come to my wedding, and so we had to get the battle done. Now, that was absolutely fine. I did have other prior engagements. Obviously, I'm getting married, lots of wedding planning to do, but I had time to put a team together. I spent a couple of hours. I built a team I was actually really happy with. The team is up on your screen now. Important notes: Mirror Move, Tapu Koko finally making his appearance with Flyanium Z Mirror Move, Brave Bird, Thunder Punch, Ironhead. This actually sweeps everything on Wolfie's team except for Tyranitar and Scarfers. If it gets to +2 and if it gets to +4, which you'll see how later on, it sweeps everything. Just absolutely sweeps everything. So that's super good. Bishop is our T-Tar check with Focus Sash, Low Kick, Knock Off, Ironhead, Sucker Punch. The Focus Sash allows it to low kick any form of T-Tar even after it's set up. Knock it out and then move along. It's also pretty good against the rest of his team. Sucker Punch is super good. If he gets webs up, I get my +2. I do super well with Bishop. So Bishop is awesome. Politoed, super important here. We have a nice Water Absorb Politoed. Why are we running Water Absorb and not... it's Chestoberry, Water Absorb Politoed. And why are we running Water Absorb and not Drizzle? That's what I was trying to say. We are running Water Absorb and not Drizzle because Araquanid bodies this entire team. If I run Drizzle, because it boosts the Araquanid, I think the least damage I take on anything is like 60 or 70%. It 2-hit KOs my entire team minimum. Oko's Koko, Oko's Bishop, Oko's Gliscor, Oko's Medicham. Super, super scary. But Water Absorb counter Politoed absolutely counters every form of Araquanid he could bring. I do have Defog on my Xatu, so I don't care if he sets up webs on Politoed. Xatu's going to have plenty of opportunities against any team Wolfie brings to defog away any webs. Ice Beam counter Rest Toxic. It can Toxic the Mew because its speed is actually so that if we ever bounce webs back at him, we'll outspeed all of his base 100 or slower mons. We can Toxic Mew. We can Toxic the Araquanid. We can counter the Araquanid as well. Rest is there to fully heal us. We actually take several hits with the 52 Spadef from a Moongus if we have to, just to Ice Beam it. We can do 30%-ish to an Amoongus. Super good Politoed. It actually really covers a lot of my bases. I don't feel like he's going to bring Sandrush, or I didn't feel, I should say, because this is post-battle, like he was going to bring Sandrush, so it seemed like a really good pick. Xatu is the MVP here. Colbur Berry stops it getting pursued to death by T-Tar. It's going to be U-Turn, Defog, Heat Wave, and Roost. U-Turn's going to be the move I click the most. I'm going to bring it in to bounce hazards or make him fear bouncing hazards. U-Turn for that sweet, sweet momentum and go into one of my sweepers like Medicham or Tapu Koko. Super good, super solid. Roost is there to heal me back up and is fully physically defensive, because fully physically defensive from max attack Araquanid takes 40%, which means we can Roost against Araquanid until either it gets bored and switches out, or until Wolfie makes a misprediction, or if I decide to U-turn. So super good that I can heal in front of that. Super good that I can just wall any variant of Mew. I think Calm Mind Mew would have needed to get to +4 or 5 to be a problem, and we can always U-turn into Tapu Koko or Bishop to deal with Mew very easily. Gliscor is super cool. Very bulky, quite a bit of special defense, but even more physical defense. We're going to go 104 physical defense, 152 special defense. Impish nature, Gliscor with 252 HP, and Swords Dance, Baton Pass, Agility, and Earthquake. I understand that you can't pass both Swords Dance and Agility, but you can pass one or the other. Agility generally being passed to Medicham, and Swords Dance being passed to Tapu Koko, allowing us to then Z Mirror Move with the Scare, like Scare Wolfie out, Z Mirror Move, get to +4, and then just sweep his team with Tapu Koko very, very easily. And finally, Medicham, Bullet Punch, Facade, Zen Headbutt, Drain Punch. Facade, because if he switches in Mew and burns us, that's actually super good. Facade then just bodies his team. Bullet Punch is super good because Zen Headbutt puts any Tornadus form in range of a Bullet Punch. Like, I think it's like a 90 or 80 something % chance in my favor with Adamant Medicham. And if I ever pass a Swords Dance into Medicham, obviously Bullet Punch is going to be super important because I will be outsped by things because I am running Adamant. I outspeed most of his team Adamant, but not all of it. Now that you've seen my team, let's go ahead and jump into this battle and see what happens. So, right from the get-go, this doesn't go so great for me. I do decide to lead off with the Xatu, no webs please, against his Blind Swine, his Pillar Swine. And for me, this isn't awful, but it isn't great. The only move he's going to be able to outspeed and hit me with, of course, is going to be Ice Shard here. I can take an Ice Shard. I am max HP, max defense. I'm perfectly happy to take an Ice Shard. I don't want a Heat Wave here because obviously it does like 17% to Piloswine. I did calc that. So I decided to go for the U-turn. It is probably my best play. He may Rocks, and if he went for the Ballsy Rocks, it would have been really bad for me. But I do U-turn out into Medicham. We don't see an Ice Shard, which is really scary, and we end up seeing a massive Icicle Crash onto Medicham. I did calculate I would have lived an Earthquake as well, but Medicham does have an opportunity here to get some revenge. The max hit of Ice Shard here is 42. I'm on 45 HP. I'm going to go for Drain Punch. I don't want to over-project just yet. It is very likely at this point that Wolfe was going to switch into Tornadus, but Tornadus still takes a chunk from Drain Punch, and I need that health back. It's really important to get that health back to get out of range of the Whittle plus priority. So I do go for a Mega Evolution into a Drain Punch into this Tornadus, and it does a fair chunk of damage. Now, I really thought he would go for the Acrobatics here. We did see that his Tornadus had no item, and I was really upset because I had this super bulky Gliscor, and then when I looked at my calculator, for some reason, I had Max Attack Adamant Gliscor, and I was like, why? Why is this in my calculator? Because when I legitimately bred my Mons using the Auto Legality mod on PK Hex, because it's legitimately breeding, I imported the same copy-paster that I dumped into the calculator. And I was like, okay, well, worst case scenario, I've accidentally given myself a Smogon automatic spread, Showdown automatic spread. So I'll go into the check instead, into Bishop, instead of into my Gliscor. Now, this worked out in my favor right here. So the wrong Gliscor helped me just a little bit here because Wolfie did predict the Gliscor to come in and went into Piloswine. I go for the Iron Head, hoping for either a flinch or just to go for the 50-50 here. And I've got the 50-50 with the Sucker Punch because he Earthquake me down to my Sash versus the Ice Shard, or is he going to Rocks, predicting my Sucker Punch? I really don't want Rocks up on my side of the field, so I do decide to go for the Sucker Punch here. He unfortunately goes for the Ice Shard, winning the 50-50, taking out the first Mon, but it's not the worst situation in the world. I do have little feats here. This time, I do predict the switch into Tornadus. This Blind Swine is still super good for Wolfie because he doesn't know that my Gliscor is the wrong Gliscor, and it's actually a max attack, one attack Gliscor, which is awful when its only attack is Earthquake and he has a flying type as well. It's just terrible. The Gliscor being the wrong EVs really screwed me over, and that was my first mistake from rushing, so I pasted in the wrong Gliscor, but I thought, you know, I can still do this. So at this point in my live comm, I was a little bit salty, but I was like, I can still do this. I'm going to Zen Headbutt predicting. That's great. It puts him in range of a Bullet Punch. It's going to force him out here, but he might go for the Acrobatics, and there is a possibility, because I got a very low roll with that Zen Headbutt, that he might just live the Bullet Punch, just due to the damage, but it's hard to tell. So I do decide to switch out into Bruce the Gliscor here, and he goes for the Acrobatics and does quite a bit more damage than he's meant to. Now, I did not expect this here, because he does actually end up going for the Taunt on this turn with his Tornadus. I go for the Agility because I really want to Agilipass back into Medicham. That would have been super awesome. He is going to taunt me though, prevent that from happening, and forcing me to hard switch. I've only got Earthquake. I don't have the bulk I need here. So I am going to still take damage over time from Acrobatics. He is eventually going to be able to kill me. He might switch. It was in my head that he might switch, but honestly, he didn't have to switch here. He does decide to switch into a Moongus, which is a super good matchup for me later on, and I go into my Xatu. So that is just such a great turn for me. Switching into Xatu on a Moongus. Obviously, it's one of my Amoongus walls. I have Heat Wave for Amoongus. I'm in a super good situation here. I'm super happy with where I'm at. I've got a lot of opportunities to U-turn if I need to get momentum. The Amoongus can't really touch Xatu at all. I have Roost. The only problematic thing would be if he poisoned me with a Sludge Bomb, but even then, I have Roost. He can't do much damage to me, even though I'm mostly physically defensive. Amoongus isn't the toughest boy in the world, and Heat Wave is going to 2-hit KO. I decide to go for the U-turn, predicting a switch, because he's got to be afraid of the Psychic move there, right? And Bird Up is on the field again. Wedding Day comes in, because it is my wedding day today. Tapu Koko hits the field, and I'm like, Thunder Punch is great here, but he has to switch, and he might switch in Piloswine, and don't want to take Ice Shard, so I am going to go for the Iron Head, predicting the switch here, and I end up Iron Heading into an Amoongus. Now, that is better than Thunder Punching into an Amoongus, but not by much. Now, I have a difficult choice here. I could go for the Z Mirror move, hoping he doesn't Sludge Bomb, predicting me to switch, but it really wasn't safe. Koko was my win con, so I decided to go into Bruce. Bruce, massive, great matchup here, especially if I had my defensive EVs. I can definitely Swords Dance and pass against this. I can definitely do all kinds of stuff. I decided to flat Baton Pass because I know he's got to switch out after seeing how little that Sludge Bomb did, and I've got that switch priority against Itsy Bitsy. I am going to go back into the Koko here, and everything is actually looking really good. I've got momentum going on. Koko is going to OHKO any variant of Araquanid in electric terrain. So Thunder Punch is super, super awesome here. I was starting to wish that I brought a Volt Switch variant just because of the momentum that I'm building up with Tapu Koko, but I'm very happy with this sweep potential variant. He goes for the Protect, which means it would have been the perfect time to use Z Mirror Move and then sweep the majority of his team, but he does still have that T-Tar in the back. I am very aware that that T-Tar does live and is going to come in if I do Z Mirror Move, so I don't want to do it just yet. Trying to save it, and I go into no webs, please, just in case he goes for Sticky Webs here, because he will live one hit. He goes into Stripey the Mew. This is perfect for me. I can go straight for a U-turn. Sorry if the battle's going too fast for you. Try and keep up, but I can go straight for a U-turn against any variant of Mew. I'm really very happy to do so. Mew basically has to switch out against R2, or it walls it. But my U-turn is my best play anyway because I have plenty of stuff to deal with this Mew in the back. I also have the opportunity to set up with Gliscor. Really starting to wish my Bisharp was still alive. Bishop was still alive because obviously that would have been an amazing switch in there. But he does go into his bird again. I do U-turn again. I'm going to go back into Tapu Koko. Of course I am, because Thunder Punch kills any variant of Tornadus. This is a very bulky variant, as I actually saw from the Zen Headbutt, but I did calculate it all out. If Zen Headbutt did more than 60%, it's going to die to Tapu Koko Thunder Punch. He's forced to switch out. He goes back into Mew, and here is where I make my first big misplay of the game. That Thunder Punch did enough damage that he looked exactly like a max HP Mew. Now, that means that I have a 74% chance to OHKO him with the Z Brave Bird if I go for Z Brave Bird. Or I can risk him switching here, and I can go for Z Mirror Move. And I made the mistake of thinking he's going to stay in, and I Z Brave Birded, and I was heartbroken when I just failed to kill him and he went for a Roost. 74% is not good enough, especially in a situation like that where you can definitely set up. I am forced back into no webs, please, and he gets another Roost off, and all of that amazing damage that Tapu Koko did and my Flyinium Z are gone. Wasted. Streaking down by Mew. I was getting a little bit saltier here. I was like, damn it, really misplayed, but I've still got my Gliscor. He isn't the right spread, but I've still got him. He can still put in work. I can still get that Sword Stomp pass to Koko. I can still get that Koko sweep. I know now that the Mew isn't scarfed, so that's fine. I know that his Tornadus has no item, so I know I outspeed everything. Amoonguss comes in. I U-turn again. Of course, I'm going to U-turn every time I'm Xatu against Mew. I go into Little Feats, because Zen Headbutt here is going to do hella damage to whatever he switches in on it. Like, really, really good damage on anything. And I was like, oh, he's going to go Mew. But he actually ended up going Bird Up. So I was a little bit weirded out by the fact he went Bird Up, even though I went for the Zen Headbutt. I thought Mew was by far his better play. And this was perfect, because Wolfe only really had two options. He could switch in his Mew to take a hit, in which case I wanted to go into my Water Absorb Politoed, which beats the Mew because it can get a Toxic off, then Synchronize happens, I get Toxic too, and then I rest off any damage that the Mew's done, plus he starts to get that Whittle, putting him well within the Tapu Koko Double Thunder Punch range, which is really, really important. As we saw, he just lives Double Thunder Punch. With Toxic up, he does not live Double Thunder Punch, super important. Or he goes Araquanid, in which case I go my Politoed, because as we discussed earlier, Water Absorb Politoed is my answer to any and all Araquanids. Even if he does decide to Sticky Web against me, I have Xatu in the back with Defog. I can get rid of those webs, or I could predict the Sticky Web and switch Xatu in, Mei-Meiing on Wolfe by using his own webs against him. So I go ahead and switch in my Politoed.
It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
And honestly, at this point, I'm not going to make you sit through the rest of the battle because there's no point. I have nothing for an Araquanid, especially an Araquanid in Drizzle without the correct Politoed. So what follows now is a live reenactment of the rest of this battle. Enjoy.